All right, so another week has gone by, and every week we like to sit down and talk about some of the most interesting things that happened within the video game industry this current week. Things like The Legend of Zelda getting announced that they are working currently on a movie. Game of the Year nominations are next week, and Grand Theft Auto 6 has been announced that they are going to showcase the first look at Grand Theft Auto 6 sometime in early December. All that and more within this video. Do me a favor and like this video. If you guys like this video, please consider subscribing. Again, as we do this style of video every single week, let's not waste any more time and let's get into the very first news topic. So Miyamoto, the big creator behind things like Mario, Zelda, tons of Nintendo IPs, took to Twitter this week to announce that he is working closely with Sony on Tears of the King, or not Tears of the Kingdom, on a Legend of Zelda live action movie. Tons of people went, to the Twitters, to the YouTubes, to the whatevers to talk about this, and I think this has been met with a lot of optimism, but definitely a lot of careful optimism. Most people, I think, again, are just nervous that this is live action. They're gonna get a Tom Holland to play Link, Scarlett Johansson to play Zelda, whatever. A lot of weird, crazy theories I was hearing. I do think that with this being live action, it does make it a lot more risky than the Mario movie was. I think the Mario movie wasn't a great movie, but it was a fun movie, right? And I think the bubbly nature, the like animations, the fact that you can take your kids, all that played in part to the experience. And if you make the movie live action, you kind of now have to take it more seriously. You have to rely on the acting skills. You have to rely on them to look like the characters. You have to rely a lot more on like realism, and Nintendo doesn't do well with realism. The Legend of Zelda stories, yes, I think work well in a live action movie if handled very, very properly by Nintendo closely, and we don't let like Hollywood really try to Hollywood it up, because we've seen that happen multiple times with tons of projects in the past, and it never works out the way Hollywood wants it to work out because they're never making it for the core audience. So I think hopefully Nintendo understands their core audience, they understand their IP, and hopefully they can make a live action property that really lives up to the Legend of Zelda status. Moving on to some bad news, or maybe good news. I think I've seen a couple different takes on this one, but PlayStation originally a while ago announced that they were working on 12 live action games. They have officially came out to say that majority of those games have been delayed beyond their initial like release windows. A lot of like the games were slotted for 2024, and a lot of those games are now moving on to fiscal year 2025. So again, this is starting to show that live service is harder than it looks. PlayStation maybe took on a venture that they probably weren't as prepared as they hoped they were. They weren't as prepared as hopefully they needed to be, and I think they really want to go back and rework some of these projects, because the problem with live service games is they're not usually like necessarily quality games. They're just games that are built to like keep people wanting to continue playing, but they're not the big cinematic like 9 out of 10s game of the year winning games that Sony's known for. And Sony does not want to jeopardize their reputation as being that like high quality brand that makes games that win game of the year, that get 9s out of 10s on Metacritic. They don't want to risk that in service of live service. With that being said, they need the funding, I think, so live service games can help. So I think they're trying to juggle and doing a balancing act of creating games that are on the level and expectation that people come to expect from a Sony PlayStation game, while also having live to service elements. And again, it just sounds like two things that don't blend well, and they're definitely going to struggle to try to get this, I think, to the finish line. I think they released these 6, and then they kind of play the field from there. They see if it's worth reinvesting into the rest of the other 6. Ultimately, I do think Sony has the chops to make a great live service game. Yes, a lot of people have been down on Bungie, and rightfully so. They've been doing some interesting things over there at Bungie. But I do think Bungie is a proven team. I do think that Sony has the abilities to nurture talent, and I feel like they can help nurture things like Bungie, things like a Haven Studios, and all these other studios that are making live service games, I think that PlayStation does have an ecosystem that allows their developers to really grow and experiment. So I'm hoping that at least one or two of these games land. If anyone can do it, I definitely believe in Sony as like them understanding their customers, them understanding their products, and hopefully this doesn't really like devalue their brand. It's also not too doom and gloom at Sony. I know a lot of us like to like poo-poo on them for their live service decisions and some of their other business practices, but when it comes to the thing that they do best, the single player adventure games that are really story driven and have really cool gameplay, are Spider-Man 2's. Yeah, they do fine at that part. They still haven't missed the mark on those yet, and Spider-Man 2 is evident of that, as Spider-Man 2 officially sells 5 million units this week. That is very impressive. That is amazing. It's what we come to expect from a Spider-Man game, specifically Insomniac Spider-Man games that have been selling really, really well. Again, it's a testament to the fact that Insomniac really understands this IP. They really understand this gameplay loop as well as this technology. And Spider-Man 2 is officially, in my opinion, the main game that if you buy in a PlayStation 5, you're buying it for Spider-Man 2. And again, it's evident in the sales of the game and the quality of the game, the Metacritic score of the game, and I think the game really does speak for itself. It's an amazing game. If you guys have a PlayStation 5 and haven't picked up Spider-Man 2, definitely check it out. Xbox has been seeing a lot of people get promoted, people like Sarah Bond and Mike Booty, and most recently Turn 10's Alan Hartman has been promoted to head of Xbox Game Studios. He's taken over essentially what Mike Booty used to do. That's really cool for him. It's really cool to see like internal talent being moved up. It's what I like to see in companies. And Turn 10 is one of the most consistent Xbox game studios they have out there. So I'm really excited to see what Alan Hartman can really do in his new position. And I mean, congratulations to my guy out there. All year, everyone's been speculating what's gonna win Game of the Year 2023. We have so many big titles like Baldur's Gate 3, Tears of the Kingdom, etc. And we're finally going to find out who the nominees are this upcoming Monday. Jeff Keighley is going to do his presentation where he announces which games got nominated for which titles and which awards. It was a really exciting time. I get really excited for that. And in this whole Game of the Year conversation of everything, something else kind of like came up unrelated to Game of the Year, but now is getting kind of thrown up into the conversation of Game of the Year. And it's not an award or anything. It's a trailer. Grand Theft Auto 6, Rockstar has officially announced that they're going to showcase their first trailer of Grand Theft Auto 6 in early December, which so happens to be around Game of the Year season. Game of the Year is normally held early December. So again, this leads up a lot of like people questioning, is the trailer going to be there? Do we go to and expect it? Is Rockstar going to hold their own event? I honestly don't know. Rockstar obviously is big enough where they don't need any event. Grand Theft Auto 6 doesn't need an event. But I think they will be there. I think the reason that they're saying expect early December is to line people's expectations up with the fact that they're going to be at the Game of the Year Awards. I feel like they didn't need to even announce that that they're going to showcase it early December. They could have just showcased it early December and people would have showed up. So I think the fact that they're announcing it this early on, that a month in advance, giving people's mindset set around that time frame, really, in my opinion, says that they're probably going to showcase their trailer at Game of the Year. And I feel like Jeff Keighley is going to make a big thing about it, as he should. Jeff Keighley has managed to get some pretty big game titles, and I think Grand Theft Auto 6 is probably be the biggest game that he's ever gotten for one of his shows. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 officially went like live. It launched this week. A lot of people, I think, going into this release were very like negative. Not a lot of like good press was coming out about this game, especially for like the campaign being weak. A lot of people saying that they didn't really spend as much time on this game as they probably should have. And honestly, I played the game, and yeah, the campaign isn't great. I'm not gonna hold you to that one. But the multiplayer is solid. The multiplayer is fun. It's good. It's Call of Duty. It's the old maps. I get it. That might seem like lazy to some people, but I think overall, like even when I look on like line, I do see like people who play Call of Duty actively are fine with it. They're happy with it. Most people honestly don't really care about the campaign like that. I don't really care about the campaign like that, and I just didn't think it was that bad. One of the games that did get people really excited was Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. I think a lot of people were expecting this to be terrible, to be awful. And I think when the Metacritic came out, it was a 73, and a lot of the reviews were, hey, it's either pretty good or it's really, really fun. And I think I was never too down on it. I always thought this was going to be a fun game. I enjoyed the very first one. And obviously, there was room for improvements, and it looks like they made all the necessary improvements. I'm just glad to see that there's another player inside the like arcade platform fighter style game that Smash Bros occupies and dominates. So I'm glad Nickelodeon All Star Brawl did not quit and they came back for a sequel. And I'm hoping they just keep pushing and keep updating this game so that it does live up to the quality, the expectations that the fans want. Mass Effect fans have been long awaiting the next installment into their legendary franchise that is Mass Effect. And this week they were treated to a trailer, and the trailer showcased nothing except for the fact that yes, they are still working on another Mass Effect game. I think all fans knew this. The report is that another Mass Effect game won't actually release until 2029. So I wouldn't hold my breath. I would just wait on it, and hopefully when it does release, it is again a legendary installment into a legendary franchise. I mean, hopefully it comes out sooner than later though. If you're someone who's been holding out on the Steam Deck because you want like a Steam Deck 2.0 or whatever, Valve has announced that they are making another new Steam Deck. It's only gonna, I believe, the only change really is the OLED screen, so it's not gonna have an OLED screen, as well as I think games are gonna download faster. I'm not a big Steam Deck person, but this does sound pretty cool. This does sound pretty interesting. I wouldn't necessarily say sell your old Steam Deck to get this one, but definitely if you don't have a Steam Deck, this would probably make sense as the one to get. Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, released this week. It also reviewed this week. It is sitting at a Metacritic score of 78. I did pick this game up, and I'm having an absolute blast playing this game. If you guys haven't checked out Like a Dragon Gaiden, I personally could recommend it. I think it is a really fun game. The story is really interesting. I think overall, though, if you're not really into like the over-the-top like nature that is the Like a Dragon series, then obviously step away from it. But if you are very interested in, or you're looking for an entryway into the franchise, I think this is a good starting point, at least for me. It feels comfortable, it feels smooth. I like the characters, I like the world, and overall, I'm having a blast with this one. Anyways, that is gonna do it for this video. Do me a favor, let me know any of your opinions on any of the topics down below. And with all that being said, I'll see you guys on the next video.